So, hello. It's unreal that we're all together, right? It's really lovely to see everyone. Last time I was at the conference was literally a few children ago. Anyway, I'm Effie. I'm an SRE at the Wikimedia Foundation, the non-profit behind Wikipedia. And today we're going to talk about what threatens a team's resilience in time and what we can do about it. Do not expect to listen something really groundbreaking that you haven't heard before, but sometimes when we lay all our cards on the table, we can see a different picture than we thought. And this talk aims to make us reevaluate our surroundings and think of improvements. The talk has two parts. The first is the reasons why an SRE team might not be properly balanced, preventing some of its members to move forward or being confident and feeling a lack of connection with one another. And the second part, I will discuss some suggestions we could try out and help our team be more resilient and confident. I won't be addressing all the problems I am going to be calling out, because if I had a solution to every problem, I would be lying on a beach for sure. And I am terribly sorry, I didn't prepare the slides exactly the way I wanted, so I used AI-generated images, and apparently AI doesn't understand site reliability engineering, but it understands llamas, so I used llamas. And that's a mandatory disclaimer before we start. So SRE teams have a wide range of responsibilities, right, and technologies compared to other teams. Our usual clients are development teams. We fit the pieces together, we apply some duct tape, and we're live. People depend on us, and even though SRE is an established field, with some practices being standard across organizations, part of the tech work is up to interpretation, and I don't think we'll ever come back with a proper definition. Each org sets its own baseline of skills and characteristics that make an SRE. That alone is the number one reason each one of us is different. And I know this year's topic is that what could SRE be? And while we're wondering what SRE is, to everyone else, I think we are just a colleague that makes everything. It's the colleague they count on knowing what is wrong and help them fix it. And when the SRE can fix it, their organization is losing value. And not all of us are like Facebook, where we can have a downtime of 7 hours and still keep our client base, intact. So we need to take care of the team and make sure it's always there. I'm going to focus on how members integrate and experience the experience being in the SRE team, regardless if they've been around for a while or they just arrived. So every team starts with 1-2 people, they become overloaded, they have too much work, and then we hire more people, and eventually we have an SRE team of 5, 6, 7 people, or SRE teams. One moment our problem is we don't have time, and the other moment is we have growing pains and we still rely heavily on just a few people. So why is that? It starts from the very beginning with poor onboarding. And when our org is experiencing growth and our org is hiring people faster than it can onboard them, we have new people in production that they're not properly trained or prepared. And not only that, we tend to onboard people from different backgrounds using the same processes and people of different levels. Is it really fair to onboard an SRE to SRE the same way we're going to onboard a developer to SRE? And then, just assume that they will learn everything else along the way. To make things a little worse, we neglect to go back, do checks, and revision our onboarding processes and keep them up to date. So after we do our off-the-shelf onboarding, time goes by, and new members are not new anymore. We're still nowhere near our top performance. And the general impression is that the new batch of people is not as capable as the previous one. So we are questioning and evaluating their progress without doing the same for our own environment. But let's sit back for a bit. Is it fair to have the same expectations from people of different backgrounds? We expect that every engineer can perform like a big tech graduate, or assume that they know the same things. And the more time people spend in a team, the more assumptions we make about what they know. So as a result, people feel less and less safe to ask questions which could be considered basic. They always wonder, am I expected to actually know that? Be that DNS, be that IP tables, be that how the product works. And in turn, we avoid to take initiative in fear of getting caught that we don't know stuff. A few jobs ago, I was discussing a problem with a colleague, and they said to me, "It seems that your C is rusty." I nodded, I ended the conversation, and I was thinking that my C can be rusty because I never knew C, I never wrote C, I never claimed I had anything to do with C. But regardless, I felt bad because there was an assumption that somehow I knew C. And then we have tribal knowledge. Tribal knowledge is the undocumented knowledge usually going from mouth to mouth. Could it be like our project dirty secrets or how we interact with our users and our teams. But more than that, it includes things that the team didn't do right and never had the time to go back and do over. For example, it's okay to merge changes in this repository. No one cares. That's what we always did. And the more time we spend in an organization, the more people think we're privy to that information, to that processes, those behaviors. And tribal knowledge is fragile. It's subject to being lost when key employees leave, and it's hard to reconstruct it. And of course, every team has its own superheroes, and it's not necessarily, they're usually people with longer tenure, but not necessarily. Those are the ones who save the day and have all the answers and the definition and define the tech direction of the team, and sadly, sometimes they just take out all the air of the room. On the other hand, our superheroes are not just terrible people. They want to get our credit. But if we were to generalize, I would say that they have a great sense of responsibility and they truly care. I mean, Batman has invested so much money in gadgets and vehicles to just have Commissioner Gordon let the Joker slip away, right? And they have put on lots of hours and sweat to build what the other members found. And they want to protect it. But every time a hero saves the day, someone else did it. Every time a hero does the work of 3 engineers, the team is 2 engineers short, and they don't know about it. As a result, our muscles become stiff, our sense of responsibility becomes weak, and our confidence drops. And when heroes move on, the void they leave behind is so big that we're posting a generic SRE job ad while we actually need an SRE with intimate knowledge of farming, natural language processing, Java programming, and 2 years of minimum experience. Putting together what we said so far, we have a team that has generational gaps. And it doesn't have to do with age, rather than about the people who were present at different eras of the organization. You may have people who simply have always been here, and they don't feel the need to share or to share their plans, because that's what they've always done. And they have special treatment from the organization because of their tenure. Our team has members that run in different gears. The established members who just know which lever to pull, and the newer ones, who could be for years, right, but still be considered new, and simply try to follow. And I saved the best for last is the lack of leadership. It could be absent leaders or frequent changes in leadership. It doesn't matter. What matters is that the teams will try to self-organize. They will try to self-manage, to keep everything working. And eventually, this becomes the norm. We now understand what a job listing means when it says self-motivated, while they actually mean self-managed. And in that limbo state, louder voices are really, really loud, and people want to push their own agendas for whatever reason. And even though things might be far from ideal, our team becomes our anchor, because things are changing around us, but the team is still there, is constant. And we become skeptical when someone comes in and wants to change the way it works. We want to hold on to it. Summing up this section, a team's confidence is when it is threatened, and it keeps people in their comfort zone and prevents them from taking initiative and being creative. We grew the team to service our needs, but we see the same people doing the heavy lifting over and over again. So the team grew, but it didn't scale the way we wanted. And that is not sustainable. And it's a bit ironic, because our profession is about making our systems resilient and highly available, and we don't apply that principle to our own teams, to our own people. And of course, we can do better. I didn't come here today to tell you how it's done, because there's no magic recipe to create a team. But we can put in the work, not afraid to do some trial and error, to make our current team today a bit more functional and welcoming than it was yesterday. And our guiding principle should be to create an environment that provides the means for people to learn, not to forget that the path each one has taken to get here today is not the same, and that we are all equal but different. And that's very important because in the same team you can have people who used to compile kernels and people who grew up without a computer. It's vital to make each person meet the other halfway and bridge our differences. And the first thing that comes to mind is addressing knowledge gaps instead of taking everything for granted. SREs should be given the time to learn new and old things, regardless of the tenure in a team or their previous experience. It can be new technologies, it can be vital components of our infrastructure. We need to be given this opportunity. And trying to standardize the learning part, create an SRE curriculum that would help new and current people reach the baseline that our organization has defined for SREs. We could provide external courses or have internal courses created, but we need to be able to run the miles we need to become proficient in the technologies we are using or the ones we want to use. Now, if the argument for focusing on addressing knowledge gaps is that there's not enough time and money, maybe we should think how much, and do the math, how much it costs to not addressing the knowledge gaps, right? Now, mentorship and sponsorship are two career-advancing tools that we are not using enough. A mentor will offer guidance and help address our knowledge gaps and provide a safe space to learn, and the sponsor would advocate and give the opportunity to do the work and move forward. Well, while I understand it takes a lot of effort to have a proper mentoring program, we can try some middle solution, like team members mentor and sponsor each other. It can be as simple as standard one-on-ones on tech topics or assigning work based on who will learn more rather than who is going to do it faster. And lastly, we can have a knowledge index, a list of topics that each one of us is an expert at, and knowing who you're going to call. Next, the best things come in pairs, right? Like Lennon and McCartney, like Simon and Garfunkel, like Emil and ex-Googlers. Pairing is great, and it might be the fastest way to train someone. It slows things down, but it works. And development teams do it. They do pair programming, and we should be doing pair SREing. Each one of us has their own tool bag and our own ways of debugging and our little keyboard shortcuts. That's the kind of information that should be passed from person to person. And working closer together can make it happen. And beyond that, it helps to create human connections and trust. On a slightly different note, we can try to expose our team to its surrounding. It's an interesting experiment. We're usually active within our team's boundaries, and that's all right. But if we have the chance to spend a week or 2 or 3 with another team and see what they're up to, it can be another SRE team, could be another development team, doesn't matter. It helps us see how our work fits together in the bigger picture, and we learn to talk and interface with other teams and create, again, bonds. Lastly, we know that we don't always hire what we need, we hire what we find, and sometimes it doesn't work out the way we expected. It didn't go as planned, and that's all right, it happens all the time. The team as a whole should be able to understand and be realistic about what each member can offer any given time, and each member should have a clear picture of what is expected of them and reset the course when needed. Working within our capabilities is different than saying that we are working within our comfort zone. So, wrapping this up, making a team work is a trial and error process, and no matter our best intentions, getting people used to teach one another takes time. There's not a single person that built a team within a day, or that people who are used to being lone wolves just flipped a switch and they became our best team players. There's one last tiny thing that we haven't mentioned, and that is management buy-in. Management should promote and recognize the effort it takes to mentor someone, to teach someone, because it takes time when we're investing. We are investing time to make people better. It is impactful, not in the traditional sense, but it is. I don't know anyone who got promoted because they were very good teachers and they taught everyone so many things in the team. And it's a shame. So spreading the knowledge will eliminate our single points of failure, will make our people confident, creative, impactful, the team more balanced. So, and on a final note, I think that SRE could be more educating, taking care of its humans the same way it takes care of its systems. And that is all.